Hello and welcome back. I'd like to explore paragraph 254 of the judgment for case 3SA 991, where the judge excuses Mrs. Bing's many smears against Angel's mental health, saying that because she believed it, it was okay for her to spread around the notion that Angel had a borderline personality disorder. For those who don't know, BPD is one of the most stigmatizing diagnoses, even among the medical profession, and would take months to diagnose while the patient was under a professional's care. Angel has no such diagnosis, nor is she under any doctor's care. What she did have was a very sick mother who she'd had to travel with her 3 young children from the other side of the world to look after, and who died during the attacks. The judge excuses these smears by saying that the rapidity, scale, intensity, and, for use of a neutral word, fervor of the second claimant's published comments about the second defendant were scarcely likely to reassure the second defendant to the contrary. Rapidity, scale, intensity, and fervor? This totally ignores the effects Mrs. Bing turning on us and our child had, especially on Angel. As the judge said himself, the essence of the tort of harassment is the tormenting of and the direct effect upon a claimant. Angel tried to communicate multiple times to try to understand why Mrs. Bing and her family had stopped communicating after having made so many promises and offers, but never got a response. This was at a time of great emotional stress for Angel, as her mother only had weeks to live, and Mrs. Bing was well aware of that fact. We also know she received and read those letters, as she told her friends, "I don't care about them enough to answer their emails." The effect of Mrs. Bing's harassment was devastating, but the judge ignored it all. He focused on the publications we wrote to defend ourselves against her actions instead, twisting 4 careful, linked-up and evidence pieces of writing, which were published between 8 and 37 days after the initial attacks, which is far from rapid, intense, and with fervor, and used them to justify Mrs. Bing spreading the totally made-up mental health diagnosis. Essentially, he turned the laws of harassment on their head, and he totally ignored the lies Mrs. Bing spread covertly to get her friends to turn on us, which started well before we'd written anything on the subject. Like she said herself, and as I explored in video 3, I would rather wreck their project than discuss it sensibly. The judge further ignored the fact that as the wife of a GP and academic and an expert in primary care mental health, including personality disorder, who works for Peninsula Medical School at Plymouth University, she's fully aware of the implications of smearing someone's mental health. He further ignored the fact that she used her willing husband's credentials to give more weight to the lies she was spreading, and excluded the worst examples from disclosure in his judgment, such as, at the end of this is his, that's her husband's, clinical judgment, which she seems to have forgotten. He has to support her, otherwise he would lose his children. If the diagnosis is accurate, she might even have made threats to hurt them, or herself, or him. Angel has a borderline personality disorder. This is a clinical judgment, not a personal opinion. It isn't simply depression. It makes her very dangerous, but luckily for us, and sadly for others, the danger is to those close to her. The judge states that, "I am satisfied that the comments were made in exercise of a wish to defend herself against attack." This means that, 1. By ignoring the original attacks Mrs. Bing perpetuated against us, the lies she spread in order to get us shunned, and the effect this had on us, especially Angel, the judge can claim that what we wrote to defend ourselves against these actions was us attacking Mrs. Bing. And 2, even if she was simply defending herself, which she most definitely wasn't, that it's okay to spread horrendous lies in order to do so. This is actually extremely serious, because this judgment allows anyone to spread any mental health smear while using the medical credentials of a doctor to add veracity to those claims, which goes completely against the laws of defamation and any medical ethics you'd care to mention. But slapping a fake mental health diagnosis wasn't enough for humanist Mrs. Bing. She was also busy convincing people that Angel isn't physically disabled, replacing her actual impairment with the fabricated clinical judgment of BPD, something the judge also totally ignored. On the other hand, that is her disablement, not the foot. The foot is real, but it isn't that bad. Joe, that's her son, says she's not walking impaired, She's just fat. Ignoring disability abuse and condoning mental health smearing. The extent Judge Anthony says Llewellyn has to go to achieve the illusion of justice. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.